Leaves between two worlds. A lock of sweaty hair stuck to Elisa's cheek. She pushed it behind her ear and bent over the juniper bush. Sun flashed off the knife as she cut a sprig and laid it carefully in her wicker basket. Herbs and simples, the Kotaladan innkeeper had sent her to gather them, and Elisa, a dutiful maid, obeyed. It was 1832, and the forest behind Kuopio felt endless. The tree line was like a mark drawn into water. No one knew where settled land ended and the wild began, the wild ruled by trolls, Haltija spirits, and the unseen mischief makers of tales. Grandmother Sari had warned her many times. Do not go beyond 3 fences. Do not turn by the black pine. Do not leave a footprint if you feel the forest calling. But summer was at its loveliest and Elisa was 20. The best healing plants grew deeper in the woods, and she was responsible for bringing them home. Sweat ran down her neck as she walked farther from the path. She paused now and then to listen. A bird somewhere far off. A brook murmuring. The sound of her own breath. Sunlight fell in dapples through the canopy onto the mossy hummocks. Everything was as it should be. Until it wasn't. First the sounds stopped. She thought her ears had locked, but after a few more steps she realized she could not hear even her own footfalls. Silence lay over everything like a blanket. Then the colors shifted. Green deepened and darkened until the leaves no longer looked like ordinary leaves but fine emeralds. The moss glowed as if damp not with dew but with molten silver. The sky between the crowns turned almost violet. She turned to head back, yet nothing was where it had been. The forest that had been birch, spruce, and pine was now full of trees she did not know, thick-trunked giants whose boughs braided together like fingers. Leaves larger than her head. Metsänpeitto, Elisa whispered, though she could not hear even her own voice. I'm in the forest's cover. In Finnish lore, Metsänpeitto, literally the forest's cover, is when the forest takes a person in, sounds mute, landmarks slip, and the way home vanishes. Some call it mere confusion, others a doorway between worlds. Grandmother had spoken of this, places where the forest claims you and turns your steps upside down so you cannot find your way even at your own doorstep. Some said it was only getting lost, a trick of the mind. Others, like grandmother, believed it a gate to another world. Elisa now knew who had been right. She tried to remember the way out, something about turning your clothing inside out. She tugged off her headscarf and flipped it, but nothing changed. The silence held, the colors shone unnaturally, and the trees watched her as if they knew her name. Hell, she tried to shout, but no sound came. She turned and ran, yet the ground felt soft as mist and she could not move forward. Then she saw them. She stopped short. In the center of a glade that had not been there a heartbeat ago stood 3 figures. Human-sized, but thinner. Skin pale as birch bark. Hair green as moss. One turned toward her and she saw the eyes, like fir needles, sharp and gleaming. We found you, it said, and she was startled to hear a voice. It sounded like wind in the crowns and yet was perfectly clear. We have been waiting for a human who sees. Elisa backed away. The figures did not follow. They only looked at her, their green eyes alight. Do you know where you are? Asked another, taller and leaner. She shook her head. You are between world and world, said the first. At the boundary where the leaves are still on the tree but already on their way to the ground. The in-between. Metsänpeitto. I want to go home, Elisa managed at last, her voice shaking. Home, echoed the smallest, the youngest. What is home, place or feeling? Time or memory? Elisa did not understand the question. She only knew she must reach the Kotaladan inn before dark, or the mistress would be furious. I have to go back. Please, show me the way. They glanced at one another, and a cold ripple went through her. They did not speak with words, but she knew they were conversing. We can show you a way, said the first at last, but it may not lead where you came from. Paths are complicated, said the second. They run into time and back again. Some paths lead to places that do not yet exist, said the third. Elisa thought of the innkeeper who would strike her if she did not return by nightfall. She thought of young Henri next door who had promised to dance with her at the village feast. She thought of her little brother waiting for his bedtime story. "Show me the way," she said. They nodded and began to move. They did not walk, they drifted forward like leaves on wind. Elisa followed. They traveled through a world like her home forest and yet utterly strange. Small creatures scurried under the trees, familiar and not, half fox, half squirrel, with eyes like a person's. The sky flipped from night to day and back again as if time were a game. "Where are we?" she asked the one beside her. "On our side of the veil," it answered. "Where the forest rules and human steps are only echoes." "Are you Haltija?" she asked. The being tilted its head. "In your tongue we have many names, Haltijat, Metsänpeitto, Mahizit. We are older than names." Before she could ask more, they came to a clearing. In its center grew a vast oak, larger than any tree Elisa had seen. The trunk was thick as a cottage, its branches reached for the stars as if to pluck them down. "There is a gate beneath the oak," said the first. "It will take you back to the human side." "Thank you," Elisa breathed, relieved. "But," said the second, "it may not take you to the same place. Time runs differently here." "What does that mean?" Fear returned. "It means you must pay your toll," said the third. "Give us something precious, and we will try to send you as near home as we can." Elisa touched her throat. There hung the small silver cross her mother had given her, the only precious thing she owned. Reluctantly she took the cross from her neck and handed it over. The being examined it, curious, then slipped it away. "Now," it said, "walk under the oak, close your eyes, and think of home." Elisa did as she was told. She walked beneath the great oak, closed her eyes, and thought of the inn. She thought of her narrow bed in the attic, the window that looked toward the lake, the smell of the mistress's fresh bread. A dizzy tug as if she were falling, and everything went dark. When she opened her eyes she lay on her back in grass. The sky was dark and full of stars, but they were moving. She blinked. Around her stretched open bog, not forest. The air was warm, but not in any way she knew. And in the sky lights moved, brighter than any stars. She sat up. Her clothes were the same, her simple cotton dress and apron. But the world around her was different. Far beyond the bog she saw lights. They were not candle or oil lamp lights, but brighter, steadier. She stood carefully. Her basket was gone. She looked about for anything familiar. Nothing. Then the lights in the sky moved, circling and wheeling as if dancing. One dropped lower, to the level of the crowns, and she saw it clearly. It was not a star. It was something else. A round disk, silver bright, ringed with tiny lights, moving without a sound. Elisa stood without moving, unable to grasp what she saw. Then from far off came a rumble that was not thunder. It drew nearer, and soon two bright beams approached along the edge of the mire. Fear seized her. She turned and ran the other way. The bog sucked at her steps. Voices followed, human voices in a language she did not know. "Look, someone's running." "Stop." "Hey, we saw it too." "Stop." She did not stop. She ran blindly until she struck a tree. The world went dark again. Witch folk, surely. Clothes like from centuries past. "She talks nonsense, I don't think she's real." Elisa opened her eyes slowly. She lay on a bed unlike any she had known, soft, but strange. People stood around her in garments she did not recognize. "She's awake," said a woman in pale clothes. "What is your name?" "E." "Elisa," she managed. Her mouth felt dry. "Where am I?" "At the health center in Puhdasjärvi, in Northern Finland," the woman said. "I'm Nurse Michaela. Do you know what day it is?" "June 8, 1832, Elisa said. Silence fell. "Today is July 4, 1969, said a man in the corner. "And you witnessed something very unusual tonight." "The lights in the sky," Elisa whispered. "They weren't stars." "They weren't," the man said, stepping closer. "Captain Virtanen, Finnish Air Force. I'd like to ask you a few questions." 3 days later, Elisa sat on a park bench and stared, spellbound, at the world. Cars, they called the horseless wagons. People passed in clothes that looked strange to her. Everything was loud, bright, fast. No one believed her story. Doctors said memory loss and hallucinations. Soldiers suspected a spy. Everyone read her words as lies or madness. But Elisa knew the truth. She had walked through Metsänpeitto into a time that should not exist. She had seen lights in the sky, flying craft, people called them though no one knew from where. And from the hospital window, late at night, she had seen them return. 3 green-eyed figures watching from the trees. They had followed her. Elisa rose from the bench. She knew she had to find her way back. Back to 1832. And she knew the forest was waiting. When she was not found at the Puhdasjärvi hospital the next morning, searches began. She was never found. But at the Kotaladen Inn, in the autumn of 1832, a maid named Elisa reappeared after 3 months away. Her hair had turned white though she was only 20. Her eyes had seen what no one else had. She spoke of lights in the sky. She spoke of wagons without horses. She spoke a language no one understood and drew signs like no writing they had ever seen. Which, the villagers whispered. She has visited the devil and returned to tell of it. When winter came and snow covered the ground, the villagers gathered in the yard with torches. They dragged Elisa out and accused her of witchcraft and the devil. No one believed in Metsänpeitto, in another time, in lights across the heavens. No one saw the 3 green-eyed beings watching from the forest's edge, waiting. I saw their future, Elisa whispered with her last breath, and they saw our past. The forest is a bridge between worlds. Behind thee in the snow ran red as the sentence was carried out. In the forest the leaves rustled though no wind blew. And far away, on the bogs of Puhdasjärvi in 1969, 3 lights danced in the sky, waiting for the next wanderer to stray into Metsänpeitto. The forest never forgets.